Excited to get to be here today. Oh, everyone got to push the meeting is recorded. Got it button. Got it. I'm so grateful to get to be here. This course has been in the progress for a very long time. It's also really good to see some of you. I recognize many of your names from different courses and things. It's lovely to see you again. And I am so pleased that we get to spend an evening together. I can't believe we're all together in an evening. So I just want to start off with the fact that some of you will fall asleep. Feel free. That's okay. I don't need you to perform for me. You can close your eyes to focus better if you need to do that. Bless you. Feel free to do that as well. I'm here to just tell you a little bit, I guess, about the thinking behind the course. So many times I find that when I want to know about a resource, I get told all about how to use the resource, and I really kind of want to know what's the thinking underneath the resource. What's the secret values and theology that's going to pop up in session 4 that I don't want to be surprised by. And so I kind of wanted to talk to you about what went underneath it, why we chose to do this course, and what the heart is of what we feel like we're trying to accomplish in this and why. So we're passionate about helping every child and teen meet and know Jesus. If you cut us down the middle, that's what you find. And the reason why we choose to do parenting for faith is because that is the best way for children and teenagers to get to know Jesus, not just children, but teenagers as well. Because in Deuteronomy 6:4-9, God lays out his plans for how children and young people are to get to know him. And he tells the Israelites, love the Lord your God with all your heart and your soul and your mind and your strength. And then he goes on in Deuteronomy 6, 7 to, don't want it. Yeah, it's 6. 4-9, he goes on to say this, and these commandments that I give to you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. God designed the discipleship of teenagers to happen in the ordinary, boring bits of life in which really household people are present, parents and carers, grandparents, anyone involved in the ordinary, everyday, boring bits of life of teenagers. And it does look different than the ordinary, boring bits of life of our 5-year-old. We get them for shorter amounts of time in random moments. I remember most of my fantastic conversations with my mom happened at 12:30 in the morning when I came home from rehearsal or something, and I'd wake up to be like, I'm home safe. And she'd be like, how did it go? And I'm like, actually, I think my friend hates me. And we'd have these like 10-minute conversations. And most of my times of like deep conversations were my mother, like trying to stay awake and the sounds of my dad snoring. And it's these little moments that you get with teenagers, but those little moments come together into the fact that parents of teenagers spend about 2,000 hours a year with their teenagers. And we all go, that sounds like a lot. Where's those times? It's in the little tiny boring bits of life, in those little 10-minute moments. It's when they're eating breakfast and you're staring at the back of their head. It's when they're in a car with you going to the place they want to go. Those little bits form a raft of time that we get to spend with our teenagers. If you work in churches, you know that the golden goose of working with teenagers is trying to find mentors. Oh, if we can only have teenagers get mentors that want to invest in their life and equip them for life. Well, God provided those. They're parents and grandparents who get thousands and thousands of hours with them. And if we as church leaders can equip parents and carers and grandparents to know how to walk alongside their teenagers' faith, we're going to see their teenagers absolutely flourish. We started with a parenting children for life of faith course. It was designed to be for everyone, people of all ages. It talks about babies, it talks about teenagers, and that goes really well. That course is applicable to all ages, particularly because families often have a baby, a child, and a teenager. But what we found sometimes as we worked nationally and internationally is there's a small bit of teenage parents who tends to discount themselves from courses because they're thinking, oh, teenager is different than child, or oh, I'm not sure if I can apply this teaching up here, or my teenager doesn't listen to me anymore. So if it says children, then I'm not going to do that. And we notice there's a little group of unconfident parents that actually would really benefit from some targeted equipping around teenagers. And so we decided to just tiptoe into this area and see what it was like. So I ran a sample. Well, I knew I wanted to write a book, so we decided I'm a pioneer. So I thought, let's just run a course and see what comes out of my mouth. So we sort of put on a course. I was hoping for 30 people. I thought 30 people would be able to tell me if I'm crazy or not. And we put it out there and we're like, please, 30 people come. And I think the response was absolutely overwhelming. We had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of screens of people who wanted to come together. And so we're really aware that that this is a live issue for a lot of parents of teenagers. And sometimes you need to say parenting teenagers for a life of faith, because it raises people's hope and it makes them think this is for me. It doesn't allow them the wiggle room of saying, oh, that's only for children. And so we decided to, that turned into a book, which now is coming back into a course, because we really wanted parents to opt in, to say, this is for me, and I can have a significant spiritual influence for the life of my teenager, because God has great things for my teenager, and I want to be a part of giving it to them. And so that was something that we set out. So in the research, we did loads of research on teenagers, gathering wisdom from all over the place, as well as from our experience of working over a decade with parents. And this sort of book and course came out of that. And we discovered that parents of teenagers really need three things from us. And so we began to put that into the course and put that into the book. And so I'm just going to give you those three sort of overview of what we were looking at. The first thing we realized parents needed was a vision. They needed key truths of who they are to their teenagers and the truth of a teenager's life with God. We needed to give them key truths, because so many parents were believing lies about themselves and their relationship with their teenagers, particularly when it came to spirituality. We had so many parents tell me, teenagers need independence from me, or I'm not the most significant influence in my teenager's life anyways. I had so many parents tell me, it's all about the youth group now. It's not about me, it's about the youth group. They would tell me that they need other people in their life, not me. This is that my time really is over, and now it's their time with other people. And we know that's not true. Research after research says parents are still incredibly significant in the spiritual lives of their teenagers. Teenagers themselves report that their parents are the most significant spiritual influence of their lives. And yet we have a whole bunch of parents of teenagers who say they're not. And so we need to give them new things to understand about themselves. And so throughout the course, what you will notice are these themes of affirmations that we spend, not to make them feel good, but for them to put their feet on. Things that are repeatedly saying, like, you are significant in your child's spiritual life, no matter what their age, whether they're a young adult, whether they're a teenager, whether they're a child, you are significant to them. We tell them what teenagers say about them, and we tell them what parents who are now adults say about their teenage life. We tell them a lot about how it's not about controlling your teenager, but it's about journeying alongside of them. So many parents don't know how to position themselves. And so we give them those anchors to say, it's not about making sure your child does everything right. It's about positioning yourself alongside of them for a lifelong faith journey. We give them truths about what those conversations may look like. So often when you're trying to spiritually parent, you think, I need to have a good, full 20-minute conversation in which we land theologically on the same place. And parents need to know that an open and unsolved conversation that is half done is actually excellent spiritual parenting. Well done if you've had half a conversation in a car and it never landed anywhere. Hurrah! That's a good walking alongside your teenager's life. We need to teach them what to celebrate, because so many parents will walk away and say, oh, I never made sure that they completely understood something. It's about journeying alongside. We talk to them about how it's not about finding the right answer or making sure that you can give your kid the absolute truth, but it's about helping your child learn how to think and ask the right questions and wrestle with the big things. It's about walking alongside of them. We talk about how your authentic, imperfect faith as a parent is valuable to your teenager because they learn how to imperfectly and authentically walk with God. We give them these truths that they can anchor themselves in, so they learn how to see themselves and their relationship with their teenager. So they learn to know. They need to learn that the church is designed to wrap around you, not to replace you. The church can never replace you. And if we say that enough times, maybe they'll start to believe it. We need to tell them that those little moments late at night are valuable to your teenagers. My favorite story of this is my dad. He used to be a police officer, and he would come home from a hard day and he would read his Bible on the table. And I used to find the Bible incredibly boring, like really boring, especially the Gospels. Same story 4 times, really. And so I just found it so disengaging. And my dad would come home and read the Bible every day. And I asked him, like, why do you read your Bible? It just it seems like quite a chore after you've done like a full 12-hour shift. And he said, no, no, no. It's today I had to take a rape case from a girl who was younger than you. Today I had to pull a baby out of a bathtub who had drowned, and I had to try to resuscitate the baby, was unsuccessful. And I went to a domestic violence case at the same home for the 8th time this month, and I can't do anything about it. And I come home and I read the Bible because I need to anchor myself in the truth that doesn't change, the God that's the same yesterday, today, and forever. It nails it all down. And it was so powerful to me as a teenager, just like whoosh, just went straight into my head. This incredibly powerful statement of what scripture is for and how to anchor yourself in the Bible when you have a hard day. And it was so powerful. And I was telling my dad about this a couple of years ago. And I was like, oh, Dad, it was so significant. Like, thank you so much for your wisdom. And, uh, and he looked me straight in the eyes and he goes, huh, I have no memory of that conversation. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, that was like fundamental to my entire being of loving scripture for the past 25 years. Dad's like, I mean, it sounds like something I say, but I don't remember doing that. And I was so struck that for him, it was what, 10 seconds, 30 seconds of a normal parenting conversation that he doesn't even remember. And for me, it was 25 years of significant foundation. And parents need to know that you don't know what fruit you are producing. We're not called to force a child to become a perfect Christian. We're called to walk alongside them in their journey, trusting that we can be powerful if we are proactive. And so these key truths are what are scattered throughout the course. The second thing we learned that parents need from us is an understanding about teenagers. Those of us who work with teenagers have grown in experience in understanding teenagers, but your average parent is not an expert in teenager-ness. And they're only understanding teenagers based on their one who constantly changes every day. And so, actually, what is really helpful for parents of teenagers is to talk about how teenagers' brains work and how their spiritual life forms and what they're trying to do spiritually so that we learn to not react to what a moment looks like in their lives. And so we also talk those little things about how teenagers' spirituality developments, what their brain is trying to wrestle with right now. And we equip parents for that throughout the course. Otherwise, teenagers are mysterious people to tiptoe around. And I'd rather create a framework for parents to go, oh, I recognize what's going on right here, and I know how to engage with it. And so our job is to do that, not because every teenager is the same, but that there are some factors of teenage brains that can be really useful for us to understand. So we talk to them about how teenagers are experimenters. And so how do you coach someone in a relationship with God as they're experimenting with who they are and what works and how the world gets put together? And we learn how to walk this steady path while walking alongside someone who is spiritually exploring and trying and succeeding and failing. And how do we keep them sort of on that wonderful journey? We tell them stories of what it looks like in the lives of teenagers. That is something that I find so isolating among parents of teenagers, is often we don't talk about the spiritual lives of our teenagers with each other. One, we're trying to preserve their privacy, but two, often there's some shame, there's some worry, there's some fear around how it's going. We're really good at turning to each other and saying, how's GCSE prep going? But creating a community where we hear each other's stories of what's going on in the spiritual lives of teenagers is something that we often don't get. And so many parents don't know what's on offer to teenagers? What does a God-connected 13-year-old look like? What is normal for a 15-year-old who's learning how to love scripture? What does it look like for a 17-year-old to try to learn how to make decisions with God? Often we don't know what that looks like. And so throughout the course, we've tried to put stories in from parents, from from youth leaders, from youth pastors, from family pastors of what it looks like in the life of a teenager to have faith, to explore faith, to try things, and to have parents tell their stories of what it looks like for them so that you understand what parenting a teenager spiritually can look like. Not because it's ideal, but because it is the variety and the beautiful variety of what teenagers' brains are like. And the third thing that we want to give them is some key skills and topics. Just encouraging parents to get out there and do it doesn't necessarily mean they can. And so it's really helpful is to give parents skills of how to be rather than activities of what to do. If you give someone an activity, they either can succeed or fail at it, and or they can discount it saying that won't work for me. And what I want parents to be able to do is have the skills to be able to apply it to the child that they are the expert in. They may not be the expert at uh, at all things spiritual. They may not have a PhD in theology, but what they do have a virtual PhD in is their own children. And so if I can give them the skills, the spiritual skills to walk alongside the children that they know, then they can really walk confidently alongside their kid in this area, and the same confidence that they're learning to walk alongside their kid in other areas. That's also a realistic goal. There's no way that any teenager, parent of a teenager, is ever fully confident. I just want us to all acknowledge. I have not ever in all of my 20 years run across a parent of teenagers who turned to me and went, you know what? I think I've nailed this thing. I know everything I need to know about parenting. Not once. So we're not aiming for sheer confidence. What we're aiming for is a belief that their messiness and the skills they have in the tool belt are going to be good enough to do what God's called them to do. And so we give them tools. We talk about 5 key tools in parenting for faith that are in the course, and I'll let Becky sort of go into those a bit more. She explains it beautifully. But we talk about how to create windows into your own life, about how to let your kids see your authentic self, because so many parents of teenagers want to show their kid the perfect Christian. This is what it looks like. I'm going to model what the perfectness. And teenagers are spotting the weaknesses. And as long as they're spotting the weaknesses, then we might as well say this is who God is and weaknesses. And so authentic life with God is actually something to become confident in. And we need to empower parents on how to do that well. We teach them how to tie together truth and experience to help teenagers make sense of the spiritual world and the scripture and how that ties together. We teach them how to unknot wrong views of God so they learn to see God authentically and real as who he is and not what the world is trying to define him as. We equip parents on how to help your kid find their own voice with God, not the way that I pray or the church prays, but what is their way of having authentic two-way conversation with God. And we talk to parents about surfing the waves of their own lives. We give them these skills, but we also go into some really specific skills, more so in the book than in the course. But go into specific skills like how do you get your kid talking if they don't like talking? So how do you get to have a God conversation if your kid isn't having conversations in general? So we go into those little things. Uh, how do you coach a kid who never talks? How do you start a God conversation with a teenager who isn't quite sure about faith? How do you walk alongside a teenager's doubt journey in a way that can be peaceful to you and peaceful to them? How do you help them engage with church in significant ways? We try to hit those big topics so that every parent can grow to feel confident in whatever comes up. They have a tool to be able to match with it so that they can walk alongside it well, because it's about co-journeying. And if your child is far from faith at the moment, if they're far from God right now, we hope that we can relieve any shame or guilt from the shoulders of parents, because today is only ever one day in a very long journey of life with God. And what we want parents to know is that their calling is to co-journey with their children. And sometimes they may be far from God, and sometimes they may be close from God, and that doesn't change the call that we have, which is to pray for our kids, to walk alongside them in whatever part of their journey it is, and use the tools that God calls us to use to be available to them to help them find their path with the God who loves them. And so that's our heart for this course. That's our approach. We try to give them key truths. We try to give them key understandings about teenage life, and we try to give them some key skills to do that, so that within a community of people, they may be supported and wrapped around by the church who loves them, by the other parents who are doing it with them, and by a God who loves their kids and wants to have a relationship with them more than even parents want God to have a relationship with them. We trust in a God who loves the teenagers. So I'm going to hand to Becky now, I think, or Lucy.
So, yes, it's asking me to unmute myself, but I believe I am unmuted. So, yes, I'm Becky, and I've been kind of like the behind the scenes person on this. So I'm just going to give you a little tour, if you like, of the course, and particularly if you as leaders, if you want to run the course, how we can support you in that and the resources we have. So before we do anything else, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to start the PowerPoint. And then I'm actually going to disappear, but you will hear my voice. So we have that situation where you can't actually see how to do this because the bar is in charge. Slideshow from the beginning. So the course is based, as Rachel says, on the book. 6 sessions presented by Rachel, very engaging. I have watched them, not 97 times, but probably 30, to be fair, as we've been going through the editing process, and I'm still really enjoying them. So yeah, so I think that speaks for the engagingness of them. What we've done, and we'll explain this a little bit more in a moment, is we've got core content of 3 teaching blocks per session, including what we've called Vox Pops. They're little interviews with children, with youth ministers, with parents and carers of teens, just to kind of like give their stories about what this looks like in their life. And that core content takes no more than 40 minutes. So you could actually, in theory, do this whole session in 40 minutes, but we want to put some blocks of add-ons that might work for you in your situation, but I'll explain that a little bit more in a minute. So as I said, Rachel is teaching it, and we've got like roughly 10 minutes blocks, a couple of minutes from parents and carers, another 10 minutes, and the same. We've provided supporting documents. They'll be available on the website. A leader's handbook, which simply sets out each session with a summary of the content, the timings, and some suggestions for how you might explore any of these topics with your participants, how you might structure that session to suit them, because you know who's in your session, and you can shape it according to whether you're online or whether you're in person, how many people you've got. So we want to hand over as much of it as possible to you to shape in a way that suits you. We also produce some 1-page handouts for participants, 1 page for each session. And again, in a moment, I'll show you what they look like, but they're designed to not require a lot of note taking. They've got the core points on them, and then some suggestions for ideas to try at home or things to talk to other people about, and information where you can go for more that kind of on our website or in the book that will pad out their understanding of that topic. The handouts and the Leaders Handbook are PDF downloads, but the participants' handouts you can either download from the Leaders Handbook, or they're available as a separate downloadable PDF from the website. So basically, you get to create your own bespoke session, pick and mix to suit your situation. Many people will run the course as a 6-week block. We like 6 weeks, so that tends to fit into a half term. But like our other courses, we're sure that it'll be run in all sorts of other ways as well. So there will be people running once a month maybe, or alongside a youth group session, or maybe do 3 sessions one Saturday and 3 sessions the next. We're not precious at all about how you use our material. We want it's a gift to you to use as suits your situation. So you may not use every session. Each session could stand alone. It's up to you to use it in the best way that suits your situation. We've also got a short 1-minute promo video that's available, so you can use it as a taster, maybe in church on a Sunday morning, or on social media, or WhatsApp it out to your parents, so you can just begin to give them a flavour of the course as you work out how you're going to use it. So what is actually in the sessions? We've got 6 sessions, and these are the titles. So the first one is called God's Plan for Teens. And these sessions, what we've done is we've picked the things from the book which we think parents and carers of teens will find useful, helpful, will answer their questions and give them new ideas and possibilities for what parenting a teen for faith looks like, about how to journey alongside their teen. So God's Plan for Teens introduces the course, introduces the ways teens are different from children, really, in the way they pick up and learn and experience. You know, we talk about teens as experimenters. I think Rachel mentioned that. And to normalize this up and down journey, you know, in those few short years of teenagehood, they change massively. You know, they go from loving one thing to being a revolutionary for another, from, you know, being passionate about climate change and then wearing extraordinary makeup and going off to funny places, you know. And so it's the same with their faith journey, will be changing as they try different things, they learn different things. So we talk about that, and we talk about this idea of giving them glimpses into our own journeys with God, so they can see what our relationship with God looks like. The second session is called Tying Together Truth and Experience. If you're familiar with Parenting for Faith, it's the key tool of framing. So what we're saying here is that if we can't see how God is active and busy in the world, it's very difficult for us to relate to him. I think many of us, if we were brought up in church, may have had a similar experience to me, where I knew a lot about God, but when I got to sort of middle teenage years, I just couldn't work out how this God I'd learnt about actually fitted into my life, and what difference he made sort of in the things I was experiencing. So we talk about helping teens make sense of who God is, anchoring their experience to the truth we find in the Bible about God. So whatever life throws at them, they don't feel cast adrift from God like a sort of untethered balloon. The third session, Connected to God in Prayer and Chat and Catch, again in terms of our key tools. Teenagers may have all sorts of information and experiences about prayer, not all of which are helpful. And we look at what they may be thinking about prayer and how we can unpick any wrong ideas. But the core of this session is all about helping teens discover their own voice as they chat to God, and how we can support them as they learn to catch his communication back. So it's really about helping them to connect with God and in a one-to-one ongoing relationship, which will stand with them for the rest of their lives. The fourth session is Unknotting Wrong Views of God. And that takes this idea that we all build a picture of God as we go through life. We learn bits from the Bible, we hear things from other people, we have experiences of God. Teenagers are the same. They've got all sorts of information about God from all sorts of places. And sometimes we get mixed up with our views of God. We may feel he's very angry or distant, or, you know, just not very bothered. And if we have a wrong view of God, it affects how we want to relate to him. So we look at what teenagers may be thinking about God. We talk about how to spot what teenagers, any wrong views teenagers have, and then sort of little techniques and ideas for actually how to unwind the wrong views, how to help them see the truth about God, and at the same time build a broad and balanced view of God that they can learn to rely on in every circumstance. The fifth session is the hot topic of teenagers and church. You know, we're aware that it's a hot topic. You know, when children get that little bit older, they start to make their own decisions, and sometimes what we want for our teenagers in church and what happens aren't the same. And so in this session, Rachel talks beautifully about the fact that what we want for teenagers and church isn't just that we get their bodies there, but that we help them to understand the beauty and depth of church in such a way that they see beyond Sunday attendance into this being a community of transformation, of support, of learning, of encouragement, of love. and helping them to see that and to be exposed to that. So church isn't just something boring that happens on a Sunday, but they begin to understand its power in our lives. And alongside in that session, Rachel answers the top 4 questions about teenagers and church. And the 5th session is called A Godly Core of Confidence. This isn't something we spoke about in the original Parenting for Faith course. Rachel actually wrote a separate book on how to root children's confidence in God rather than themselves. But we felt that for teenagers in particular, confidence is a big issue. They're hearing messages from the world about their confidence. They can be confident because of their appearance or because of their skills or because of how they behave. Their confidence can be rooted in things which are transient and won't work. And we want to turn their hearts to God and to show them how if they can base their confidence on who God is rather than who they are, they will be set up to cope with pretty much anything, knowing that God's got their back. So that is each of the sessions. So there's just those 6 sessions, but they're all based on the content of the book. And now I think Lucy's going to give us a little glimpse of 2 bits. She's going to show us the beginning of one of the sessions, so you get a flavour of that. And then in a second clip, she's going to play some of the parent and youth leader interviews, so you can get a flavour of what they're like too.
Brilliant. Just getting there with the video.
Welcome to session 4. This is about unknotting wrong views of God. We're all in a process of weaving together an image of who God is. We pull together our experiences, what we read, what we are exposed to at church, and we begin to build as accurate a view of God as possible. We're weaving together all of this into a picture. And our teenagers are doing the same. They're taking the things they learned from RE, and they're taking the conversations they have with their friends, and they're taking the things they learned from church, and they're pulling together all these strands of learning and thoughts and debates, and they put it all together into a picture of God. The problem is that teenagers, like many of us, weave these together in sometimes not the most helpful of ways, and they end up coming out with something that looks like this. Some things are scripture, some things are great conversations, some things are healthy and right thoughts, and some of these are just random things they saw in a movie and an experience they had that they had no idea what it was about. And they've put all of these life experiences and truths all together into this knot. And then they try to engage with God based on all of these thoughts and ideas and this image of God that they've put together. It can be hard because when you have some not true views about God in there with the true ones, you begin to react to an image of God that isn't quite accurate.
Okay, there's a second clip coming up. One sec while I just find it.
And coaching them and where God is in all of this. So create these windows, not because you're perfect, but because you're authentic and because you're on the journey. And that up closeness is great. Invite other people over and have those conversations around the table and invite them to see windows into lots of different people's views so that they can learn that an authentic life is different for everybody and it will be different for them. So let them see it, tell your stories, ask their opinions, and help your kids see that authentic life with God is a beautiful thing.
I think being real, this generation, they really know when you are lying or not. They really know when you are pretending or not, which is great. And the thing is that if you want to have honest conversation with young people, you need to be honest first. You need to be real first.
For my dad, I saw him go really in business. He hit rock bottom, and you're like, someone save him. And I watched him wake up every morning, not have anywhere to go, sitting at home, but just open his Bible. He gets ready for the day and he just sits studying the Bible. And I think it took 6 months, he went from nothing to owning a business and doing amazingly well. And you can tell it's times he spent praying, talking to God, and just, of course, getting ideas and doing them.
Yeah, so I know, for example, my friend, she has Lectio on in the background. She listens to podcasts or worship music while she's like just doing normal household things, maybe in the car or cooking or cleaning. And that just is like creating a window into how she is accessing things of faith in a way that's quite normal and everyday.
They're watching you. They're watching all that you do, the way you pray, the way you worship, the way you handle situations. You know, they're watching you. It doesn't have to be just a particular event or thing that you do. It's everything about you. They're watching you. And they tend to pick things up and replicate what they see.
6 months ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, which is obviously a big journey to go on. But we made a point, my husband and I, when we told the children, we told them together, we prayed about it, we said we don't know where this is going to end up, but we know that God is good, and we know that he heals in different ways. So we've had discussions with the children about what things might happen and what things might turn out like, and to know that God was in it. So when the people came round and prayed for me, which they did, we left the door open so that the children could look in and could wander into the room and get something if they needed to.
I mean, I try to create windows when I'm talking to my teen kids. I mean, I remember coming home from school one day and very occasionally they'll ask me what I've done, and I use that as an opportunity to be able to talk about God. So I talked about something that I was grappling with, about a person that there was an issue with, and about what I might have done, but how I gave it to God and talked it through with God, and how that altered my behaviour and what I was going to do. And I think they find that really helpful, that they see, you know, day to day how God is helping me to live my life.
So that's just a little sample of some of the stories. There's a mixture there of parents and youth workers, and we've also got other people in different points of the course, but just some really simple stories about what this looks like in different situations. The next thing is, where do you get this stuff from? So we have a page on the website. We've got it down here, Parenting Teens course. And what happens is, if you want to download the course, if you go to that page and click on the videos, you'll be taken to a form which you fill in to say, we'd like to download this, and this will automatically send you the videos. I think they're all going to be up by the end of next week. I think we've had a short delay on just editing the subtitles and things, but everything's going to be there. And as I said before, they are for you to use as suits you. You know, we have people who use bits in sermons, or you know, running the course in a way that suits you. It might be online, it might be in person. You might want to send out the link to the video to the parents and then meet later to talk about it. Use it however works for you. So we have a handbook. So as I said, it's a PDF download, free to view and print. It's got an outline of each session, including your options there and the timings, ideas at the front for adapting the course to your context, and sort of things like, think about what team you might need if you're running an in-person course. Stuff that we know from our experience of running courses is useful. We've got further information at the back about other parenting for faith resources, for our Facebook and social media links and groups to join and other things we offer. And the handbook and the handouts are free to you to download, and you have permission to print and distribute them for the purpose of the course. So we're going to have a little look. This is like the top half of one of the pages, because you couldn't read it if I put the whole page on. This is just a screenshot then of session 3, a summary of the session at the top for you. So just as a leader, you get to look at it and go, yeah, that's what this bit's about. And then an outline. Now, the parts you see there in italics are the add-ons that you might want to include. So if you're doing a group in person, you might want icebreaker ideas. We've just made a couple of suggestions. Please feel free to use these, discard them, substitute something far better that you know about. And then for each part, we give a summary of what happens in that bit of the video, and then how long it takes, so you can plan. This is the second half of the page, and again, we've added in for each short block, which are roughly 10 minutes each, an optional sort of kind of question that you might want to give to people to consider on their own, or a short discussion. Or if you want to put the discussion to the end, we have added 6 discussion questions at the end of each session, which you could use to start a sort of reflective conversation at the end of each session. We've also got these handouts for the parents and carers and other people on the course, a summary of the core teaching with space for them to make notes. There's going to be a PDF editable version, so they can type directly on it if they want, or they may not do any note taking at all, or use their pencils. What we've tried to do here is give them prompts for the key points, but then also add in some things. So this next screen shows you things a bit closer up. So this is session 1. It's the 3 main parts. So we say, what's our role? This idea of God smart and God connected, and creating windows. And then we've added some ideas to try. And the idea of these are all that they're very straightforward and things that you could pretty much go home and have a go at. So we want an opportunity sort of for parents and carers, people who've been on your course, to actually go and try this stuff, give them the confidence to get started. In blue at the bottom, there's some questions which have been taken from the handbook. So, you know, again, they may want to have a conversation with their partner at home, or dwell on something, or chat to their friend. And the final box, the top right, is find out more, points you to where this content is in the book, and also some links to articles on our website, which would explain more if they were interested in going into more detail. So where can you find it? It's this parenting-teens-course, or you can find it from the drop-down menu on the home page. And we're going to put everything on there. So you're going to have your handouts, your leader's guide, the promo video, the links to the sessions, all the information you need to literally download it and get started. And as Lucy said, it's free to download, which is always a bonus, isn't it? And finally, I just really want to talk about how we want to support you. Essentially, we're fairly nosy, and we love finding out how people use the courses. And more than that, Kate and I in former lives were both children's ministers, and we know that it can be really helpful to say to somebody, I don't understand this bit, or this bit's not clear, or have you come across a situation with a family that's like this? So Kate is always at the end of an email, literally. Kate loves nothing more than talking to people. She gets very, very bored if she hasn't had a chat with a live person at any point in the day. So what we ask you to do, if you're happy to, is to register your course with us. And that's an option that is not just to download it, but to let us know when your course is running. You give us your dates, and you can tell us any prayer requests, because the first thing we do with that is we whack it onto our prayer calendar, and we will pray for your course in the lead up to the course, and we will pray for it on the day of your sessions. And that's really lovely for us. There's a kind of like a bonus for us, is that enables us to know more of the courses that are running, because it's perfectly possible to run any one of our courses and nobody knows, because we don't compel you to register it. But for the purpose of fundraising and grant applications, it can be really useful to know that courses are running. So if you can register your course, one, we'll pray for you. Two, it really helps us. And at any point, you've got both of Kate's email addresses up there. Just ping her an email or use the contact form on the website. No question is too silly. We regularly get questions from course leaders saying, this is a particular situation with a family in my church. How do windows work here? Or what would you suggest? Or have you any ideas for where I could go for help with this? And we will always answer. We'll often signpost you to something we've got or other people we know are experts on that particular thing. Or if we don't, we will create something for you. We'll find you an answer and write back. The other thing about registering your course is we have a page on the website called Find a Course. So we can advertise your course for it. So we can list it. And then automatically when people press a magic button with the name of your church, we'll ping you an email saying they want to be in touch. They'd like to come and join your course. So some people like to have their course listed on our website. And Kate will also ask you for feedback. Feedback is really important to us. We're aware that sometimes at the end of a course, you know, a feedback form is the last thing you've got on your mind and maybe your parents are all rushing off. If you can find a way to feedback, our feedback forms are online. They're relatively simple and quick to complete. Again, it helps us in two ways. One is that it gives us evidence of the courses and helps us feedback to our funders. It also gives us stories of what's been going on, which is helpful. But most importantly, it helps us shape what we do in the future. So if we have feedback saying this does not work for us, one of the reasons we have a teens course, one of the reasons we have a grandparenting book is because people have come back to us and said, I really like the course, but I'm a grandparent and this bit doesn't work for me. Or my kids are teenagers and I don't understand what this looks like in this context. So the more feedback you give us, both as course leaders and inviting your participants to feedback as well, the better we can serve you in the future. So I think that's your whistle-stop tour, but I know we've got space for questions and answers as well.
Absolutely, we do have. Thank you so much, Becky and Rachel also. That was super helpful. I'm just going to, there we go. Oh. Not the smoothest on Zoom. Yeah, as Becky said, we've now got a really nice amount of time for questions. I'm sure you have lots of things you'd like to know about the course. So just while you are typing those into the comments, I did just say that I was going to share with you a little bit about how we're able to produce these courses for free. Now, I just want to be totally honest with you. When Parenting for Faith got going, when it started, we had a very, very generous donor. And we've since had very generous donations from a small number of individuals who've basically been able to put the money together for all the resources we have produced to date. So that's 4 courses and all the online resources, all the Facebook Lives we do, our podcast, all the rest of it. And as you can imagine, a professionally produced video course is not cheap to create, but we were really, really fortunate last year to secure funding in order to make this course, and most importantly, to make it free, entirely free of charge to any church all over the world who might want to run it. Now, going forward, we want to continue to resource churches and we want to keep things free or low cost as much as possible, because we know that there are many churches and individuals in the UK and around the world who simply could not afford to pay for a resource like this. And we really strongly believe that money should never be a barrier to someone coming to faith or being discipled or equipped to disciple others. We really kind of believe that very passionately. But in order to do this, I'm going to be completely honest with you, you know as well as I do, things cost money, and we need to increase the number of people who can financially support us. It's not really realistic for us to sort of continue to hope that one very wealthy person will fund the whole thing. And actually, that's not really the model that we want to kind of pursue long term either, because we realise the importance of partnership and having a wide support base with whom we can have a two-way relationship. Becky's just talked about how we respond to feedback and we provide resources in response to what people tell us. So this is not a one-way relationship at all. Now, I'm fully aware that there's a cost of living crisis at the moment. We're all having to tighten our purse strings and be super aware of where our money's going. But it's also true that charities like BRF Ministries are also feeling the effect of the rising cost of living. And if we're going to continue to produce high quality resources like this course, we do need to ask people to partner with us financially. But the good news is that you can become a friend of Parenting for Faith for as little as £2 a month. Just think about that for a moment. That used to be the price of a coffee, but now it's like half a coffee, isn't it? Or 2/3 of a coffee. You can't get a coffee anywhere where I live anyway for £2. So it's really not very much at all. And you might be thinking, well, is it worth me giving £2 a month at all? What good can that do? It's such a little amount. Well, it might be a little amount to you, but actually to us here at Parenting for Faith, it makes a massive difference. And it really does enable us to continue the work that we're doing of equipping families to disciple their children. First, it makes a difference because the more people who give that £2, the more that the further that £2 goes. But also, we're a very small team here at Parenting for Faith, but we're incredibly efficient. So we don't waste money, we don't waste resources. We produce an awful lot of free resources, and we don't need a huge amount of money to do that. So that £2 does go very far. So I just wanted to ask you today that if you feel that discipleship of our children and our young people is important and it's worth investing in for the future, would you maybe consider becoming a friend of Parenting for Faith? Would you consider maybe setting up that £2 a month regular gift? Because we absolutely love getting to do this work. It's such a joy to be able to resource churches, and we would love to share some of that joy with you. We really would. You can set up a monthly gift, or you can give a one-off gift if you prefer. And the address to do it at, if you're interested, is brf.org.uk/donate. So it's pretty easy to remember, but I will pop it in the chat in a minute. And we'll be so excited to partner with any of you who felt that you wanted to say, yeah, I love what these guys are doing and I want to join with them, and keep these resources kind of widely accessible to all. So we are going to move into questions now. Oh, we have got no questions, which is quite extraordinary because this morning we had loads of questions. Oh, great, we've got a question. Thank you. Yeah, they're all going to come flooding in now, aren't they? Don't be shy. Please add them in the chat if you've got questions about this course. We've got a few dummy questions if we need to fill some time, but we'd much rather answer your questions. Grace Church Bolton, I think it sounds great. Do you think running the course will work well on Zoom? Becky, I'm going to go to you for this one.
Yes, it will, because I say this with confidence, because what happened as a result of COVID, like everybody else, our courses went online and we learned a lot very quickly about what works online and what doesn't. And so we designed this to be online friendly, if you like. It's got it's shorter than our old courses, and it's snappier, if you like. And I think the way the sessions break up, we have found an awful lot of churches are still doing courses online post-COVID, because actually it works so much better than getting a babysitter or managing to get both parents out of the house at night, or a parent on their own, where leaving the home at night means a babysitter and things like that. So yeah, we're really hopeful it will work well online.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Rachel, did you want to add anything else to that? Happy? Great. Well, I've got a question whilst others are thinking and typing into the chat. My question for either or both of you is, I'm a youth pastor, I'm not a parent. How is this going to help me?
I'll give that one to Rachel.
Well, for me, the goal in working with parents is never, I have parented a teenager, so therefore you should listen to me, because the goal when you're working with parents is never to say, parent like me. The goal when you're working with parents is to say, parent like you, and I want to support you, love you, and equip you to do what you're called to do. And so you do not have to have a child to run a parenting course, because every parent needs a fan. And we can be the biggest fans of parents possible to say, your kid's awesome and you must be doing great things because you've produced fantastic kids that I adore. And to be there, to be a listening ear, to point them to resources, to say, let's do this together and I can listen to your questions and I can show you where your stories are popping out with the teenagers. So it's really important that we wade into this, because it's not ever about being an expert in parenting. It's about being the church that wraps around a parent, and anybody can wrap around a parent. And so it's just about having the heart to serve parents and to champion them and to let them know from someone who they think is the cool kid that their kid will listen to, actually, that we just believe in them. We see their central position in their teenager's life, and we support them and love them in that, and can't wait to wrap around them in however way will serve them best. And so, yeah, you be you, because you're called to this group of parents, and they need you just like their kids need them.
Becky, anything to add?
Absolutely nothing. The perfect answer again.
We have another question here from Sava. How have parents who are not Christians engaged? Most of my youth church families are not yet Christians. Becky, do you want to go for this one?
Yeah, I mean, the course has not yet been run in its current format, so I can't say we've got no examples of churches having run it in that way. What I will say is that I think it's a really exciting thing to be able to say to a parent who maybe doesn't know Jesus yet, we're your kid's on this journey with Jesus, this is what we see, and we want you to be part of that journey too. And coming on this course, it's about how you frame it. This course will sort of share with you some of the stuff your kid's learning, and give you some ideas for how you can engage with this with them. So I think it's an opportunity to walk alongside the parents as they walk alongside their children.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Rachel, go for it.
Well, I just wanted to support what Becky was saying. We haven't had this course released yet, but the Parenting Children for a Life of Faith course, which covers all ages, has been running for many, many years across many different places. And what we hear time and time again is that parents who aren't yet Christians, who are unsure about their own faith, are going on these courses because they want what's best for their kids, and they see their kids engaging with it. They themselves have questions about faith and how to talk about their kids with it. And we find that because the approach is not, here's the right answer, and you need to be the perfect Christian, and this is how to pass on perfect Christianity to your kids. The approach is very much, this is what God has on offer for your children, and this is how to support your children in their own faith exploration and journey. Then wherever you are as a parent on your faith understanding, isn't the central point. The central point is we're all called to journey alongside our kids in their journey of faith, and here's how to support them and help them. And so you can do that side by side. You can say, I'm not sure what the answer is on that big question, but my job is to help you figure it out. So let's call somebody, or let me tell you how I'm wrestling with that question and something I found helpful. And so the assumption is that you want to help and support your kids, not that you're a perfect Christian. And so we've found many parents have become Christians on the thing. They have sort of stepped forward and grown in their faith because of how we talk about God and how we reflect on what's on offer for individuals and how they can choose into it. But we've also seen people who bring their partners who are not sure where they are in faith, and it's a safe space to be able to talk about it, to react and to chew things over without there being a performance pressure on a parent. So based on our other course, which this course would have the same tone, we find it to be a good place for those parents to chew it over. But I would also encourage you to watch it before you go for it and see, what do you think? Because you know those parents that you're serving, and you know the exact parents that you have, and you can tell what you think. And you can also, I've talked to some course leaders who what they did was they took a session and they took it to parents who aren't sure and said, what would you feel about this kind of tone for the course? And they brought them into the decision-making process of what it's like for that. And so you're the expert in that family.
Thank you both. The next question, we're hoping to run this whilst their teens are at youth club. Did you say a session could be done in an hour? And then the second part of the question we've just covered, how about parents who aren't sure about their faith yet? I think we've just covered that, but yeah, can the sessions be done in an hour whilst teens?
Yeah, the core content, so the longest, when I say core content, I mean there's 3 teaching blocks, and then Rachel's little summary block at the end. The 3 teaching blocks plus the parent and youth worker videos, plus Rachel, some of them won't come to more than 40 minutes. So you'd have time for the drop off the teens, grab a coffee, do 40 minutes of video content, and you'd be done within the hour. So I think that would work really well, because you obviously that you've got the parents have already arrived to drop off their teens, so you don't have to gather them.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, and if you wanted to have some kind of discussion element in that, you could always set up a WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
If all you had time for within that session was to watch the video, you could maybe carry on the discussion afterwards via WhatsApp. A couple of questions here that I'll answer because they're about the kind of logistics of things. What's the course that's happening online in June to July? Oh yes, well spotted, Paul. We didn't mention that, did we? Is it just an example of running the 6 sessions? We are running a parenting teens course online over Zoom across 6 Tuesday evenings in June to July. So it starts 4th of June, running till the 9th of July inclusive, from 8 till 9 p.m. And this is a model that we have done with all of our other courses, and we find it's really effective. And basically, the advantage to you is that all you need to do is sign up to the course and invite your families. There is an admin charge for that particular course because we're running it, but that's all you need to do. Find your families, and we will host the course. We will stream all the video content. We will plan the sessions. All you need to be able to do is gather your people who you've invited and facilitate discussion within your breakout room. We will give you a church specific breakout room or more breakout rooms, depending on the number of people you gather. So you can either run this course for free whenever you like, and you do the hard work of setting it up, but it is a free resource, or you can sign up to our online Zoom hosted version. We do all the hard work. And it's going to cost you as a church £60, but that is unlimited sign-ups for that. So £60, a one-off fee for a church. So that's £10 per session. If you have, say, 5 parents doing the course, well, that's £2 per person per week. So I don't think you'd find another evening class at that rate. It's still a bargain, but it's just to cover the sort of administrative costs of having that course hosted. So I hope that clears things up. It is the complete course that we will be doing. We won't be able to show absolutely every minute of every video in that time because we will allow for discussion, but it will be the course. It won't just be an example. It will be the course. Nicola was asked, when will the course be made available? So yeah, we were hoping to have it available for today. Nicola, I'm so sorry, we've had a few hiccups at last minute, but as Becky says, the only thing needing to be done now is just there are a few typos on the subtitles, and we wanted to really make sure that the accessibility was good across the course, so we didn't want to upload it without it all being right, and that's going to be done by our video editor next week. So by the end of the week everything should be up there. So that's the sort of by the 22nd of March, that kind of time, it should all be up there. The handbook is all ready, the handouts are ready, all the videos are ready. It's just these subtitles. But I'm going to drop you all an email tomorrow just reminding you of the discount code and with a recording of this session as well. And I will email you again towards the end of next week to confirm that the material is up there. So don't worry about forgetting. I'll nudge you, and then I'll leave you alone. Don't worry, I won't keep emailing you. Is the 15% off applicable to the bundle? Sadly, it's not. I'd love it to be, but these things are out of my control. So get the 15% discount before Sunday. If you miss it, then you can get the bundle after that for 10%. But yeah, just buy 5 individual copies at 15% because it will work out cheaper for you. If you want to buy a bundle, buy them before Sunday. It'll be cheaper than the 10%. Are there any more questions about the course or any aspect of running it or anything that people are keen to know?
As they're typing any questions they have, I just wanted to mention something that I found really interesting, just to throw in everyone's brain. When we did the initial terrible version of the course, when I was just pioneering things, one of the things that I found really interesting, and I don't know if you remember this, Becky, but a lot of teenagers sat in for the sessions.
Yes.
Do you remember that? And I found that absolutely fascinating, that many teenagers, when it was done online, so there would be parents sitting there with 2 or 3 teenagers who would want to be a part of listening to it and hearing it. And it started some really interesting conversations in their families by listening to it together. And so if you do run it online, don't be surprised if you have teenagers sitting on the course, I was very aware of that behavior. And so when we were planning the course and how to do it, I talk knowing that there might be teenagers watching it. And so that's another thing. That was just an unusual thing that popped up that we thought was very interesting, that they could then together listen to something and then discuss how they want faith to work in their family. It was a total surprise for us, but a really fun sort of outcome that we were aware of when we recorded this one.
That's interesting. I don't think I ever knew that. Thank you for sharing. That's fascinating. Claire and Ben have got a good question here. Some tips for how to capture parents' hearts for coming on the course. What would you say? Either Rachel or Becky, I don't mind. Who wants to start?
I'm trying to make eye contact with Becky, which doesn't work over Zoom. In real life, we'd be awesome at this. For me, here, I'll talk, Becky, and you can think, and then you can jump on in.
Yeah.
That's we normally. For me, the key truth thing is really helpful because I find sometimes when you're trying to get parents to come on a course, they're going to run straight into their insecurities, their worries, their fears that they're going to be shamed, whether or not their kid's faith is to a point where they feel like they should come, that it's hopeless. And so I would really begin to look at those things and say, what are the beliefs that some parents are having about themselves that are hindering them from wanting to come and do this? And so for me, the big question is what is hindering these parents rather than how I can motivate them to get there. And so it could be that you need to say, I'm not sure if you know this, but parents are still the most significant spiritual influences in their lives, even as teenagers. And therefore there's a special thing that happens with parents of teenagers and the spiritual lives of their teenagers. And we want to talk about it. So let's come and let's talk about it, because it's not about what faith journey your kid has right now. It's about how do we position ourselves to walk alongside of them for a lifetime. What are the sentences they need to hear to make them feel like this isn't about becoming perfect. It's not about being shamed. It's not about where your kid is right now. It's getting all the tools you need to surf it. So whatever you're finding they're stopping with, it could be it's about the youth group, and to say, stand up and actually say it's not about the youth group. We can have the best youth group in the world, but you will still be more significant. And so let's talk about it. The other thing that might be helpful too is to look at their pain points. What pain are they experiencing? Sometimes we talk about faith and parents are like, I don't really know about that. But if we say confidence is a huge issue that each one of us is facing with our teenagers, and we know that the only way to have anchored confidence is for them to be in relationship with a God who knows and loves them. And so we're going to talk about that. And so you frame it for them along the pain points they're experiencing rather than the things I want you to know. And so get to know those parents and find out what's hindering them or what the pain point is they're experiencing so they can feel understood. That's
and I got an entirely practical thing, which is to maybe not rush into the course, because you've got to get that messaging out there. It's like the drip feed, and I'm aware that your parents aren't necessarily church every week, and sometimes it takes, particularly if you're lacking confidence or it's a really new idea, it can take quite a long time of hearing something before you begin to think it may be for you. So maybe I would say look 6 months in advance if you're going to maybe do it in the autumn term or something, and to start that messaging now, start those conversations, find your gatekeepers, who are the parents and carers who are going to carry others with them, who'll be sort of talking about it, who are ready to jump on this bandwagon and bring other people with them. So my experience is that probably I would always have about a 6 month or more lead into a course. So just from practical, when are you going to get it in the calendar? Can you start working out when parents are available, what night works for them, and things like that? So start nice and early and find your gatekeepers and start drip feeding pretty quickly.
I would also suggest 2 more things. Now that Becky and I are on a roll, once we get going, we're on a roll. Is one, go with the ones that are going. Sometimes we want our first course to have everybody, and that's okay to not. It's okay to grab your 5 keenies and go with your 5 keenies, because parents listen to other parents. And so once you've run one and you get parents going, that actually wasn't as cheesy terrible as I thought it might be, they're going to listen to that, or actually that was helpful. It's not actually shaming. And so getting a group of people to go, it's okay to go with the ones that are going. My first Parenting for Faith course that I tried to invent it with, I had 3 parents, and most of the time not all of them showed up. there were times where it was just me, a bunch of snacks, and one man. And I did it anyways. And that's okay, because they were keen. And the next time I had 25, the next time, and that's okay. And the other thing I would say is position your heart to know that you might need to run it a couple of times to get it. Do the first one and know you're going to do one. Your goal is to get a lot of them on the second one. And the first one is going to be sort of your trial, your experience. Run it small, figure it out. And so, you can capture their hearts by letting them see the fruit. And sometimes you'll need to do that twice to do that.
Thank you both. That's great. And I just want to add a couple more things to that. One is that we have a 1-minute trailer if it's helpful to you in the same place. It will be on that same link with the course if you want to show that in your church. And I just thought, since we've got a few minutes, I could just show that to you now. So I will in a minute. But the other thing I was going to say was from a marketing perspective, I spent last year being the marketing person for Parenting for Faith. The main rule of marketing, and I say this as somebody who's only done 10 months of a marketing job, seems to be offer the value first, like a bit like Rachel was saying, meet somebody's pain points and offer the value that's going to really speak to them. Nobody wants to go on a course. I can tell you that for sure. If you say to someone, do you want to come on a course? The answer will be no. Nobody wants to come on a course. Do parents of teens want to know how to disciple their teenagers? Yeah, they want to know that. Do they want to know how they can support their teens when they're no longer coming to church? Yeah, they want to know that. Do they want to know how they can encourage their teens' prayer lives or encourage their teens to read the Bible when they're not keen? Those kind of things. Yeah, they want to know those things. So rather than say, would anyone like to come on a course? Offer those things. Well, would anyone like to get together to just sort of kind of chat about how our teens are doing spiritually, and maybe kind of think of what tools we already have as parents that we could kind of use to nurture our children's faith, and those kinds of things. You use that language that's going to appeal. I'm going to, oh, sorry, there's another question. I'll just answer this first and I'll show the promo. Food always helps, Kate says. Yeah, food is definitely, as I said at the start, it's my love language. That'll get me somewhere. Nicola says, should we advertise the book before the course, same time, or doesn't matter? The book has been out for 1.5 years, so the book is in the public domain. Really depends on your parents and what you think they'll go for. If you've got a load of kind of bookish parents who like to read, absolutely get a few copies. If you think they'll respond better to the course, do that. It doesn't really, I would have said it doesn't really matter, but your parents best, so do what they need. Becky and Rachel, any thoughts to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think the course isn't comprehensively the book. We couldn't have done that in 6 sessions or even probably 12. It captures the key points, and where we've done a session on whatever it is, it's done thoroughly, but there's other chapters. So it might be really helpful for parents to have access to a book, because it enables them to go back over the material and just put it in a broader context, but it's not necessary at all.
Mm.
Yeah, I really liked how, Becky, in the handouts that you designed, that you showed which chapters were connected to which session. And I think that's really helpful, because it was agonizing, the amount of tools that we really wanted to cover in the course that we just couldn't. The book is so much deeper and so much even more practical. There's a lot of those, like, how do you get your kid to talk if you can't get them to talk, and all of those real sort of down in the trenches tools. And so it may be helpful to have them at the same time, but there are some people who love reading books and will just want that information that way. But that side-by-side thing means that they can get the ideas of it and then be reminded of the ideas and deeper into it. But that's only for those who are readers.
And I think actually, I think actually as the person leading the course or hosting the course or supporting parents in your church, another way to use the book would be for you to have a look at it, and then in the intervening in the week, or maybe post course, you have a get together and just explore some of the other little things in there, like how to get your teen to talk when they won't ask questions, and things like that. There's some really easy stuff in there, which when they've got the context of the whole course, you can just take them on the next step. So that might provide you with a reason to get together for something to eat and just check in on everybody and just add to their toolbox of skills.
Thank you both. I've got the promo here. It's just 1 minute long, so I'm just going to play that, if that's okay, so everyone can get an idea.
Parenting Teens for Life of Faith course exists so that you as parents can grab on to all of the amazing opportunities you have as the parent of a teenager to help your children meet and know God now and for the future. Life for teenagers can be really complicated. They need God. They know how to have a foundation to navigate the world around them. A life with God is so beautiful and fruitful for them. And we as parents and carers and grandparents get to help them find their path that looks right for them, that looks just like them. The Parenting Teens for Life of Faith course explores how we can help teenagers find their own voice with God in prayer, how we can walk alongside them as they form their views of God, how we can engage with great conversations about church and life, how we can help them find their confidence rooted in God. So much. We will give you the skills and knowledge and understanding of how teenage brains work so that you can be the most fruitful and effective you can as a parent of a teenager, helping them find God for themselves now and in the future.
So that just gives you a little idea. Great. Well, we can squeeze a question in if anyone's got some desperate last-minute question to shoot at us. Otherwise, thank you so much for coming today. It's been absolutely great to have you. Oh, I almost forgot. Could I just ask you? There should be a little poll coming up on screen now. It should take you about 10 seconds to complete. Would you just mind filling this in quickly? This is super important for us as we evaluate our online events and resources that we offer. It goes to funders and that kind of thing. You know, it's always good kind of feedback for us as well to know how we can improve things. So if you wouldn't mind just filling in, hopefully you've got a Zoom poll up on your screen, and that would be great. Can everyone see the poll? Oh, good. That's good. I've got a yes. Just looks like no one's answering, but I think that's probably just because my computer's being slow. Thank you so much. So if you could just fill in this, we'd be so grateful. I'll be in touch tomorrow and again later next week with an update on the course. But thank you so much for coming tonight. You've been an amazing group of people to have here, and we are so grateful for your excitement about the course. So definitely stay in touch and let us know how we can resource your church. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's been great to have you.
But Claire and Ben, before you go, where are you? Is that your house?
It's our garden room.
It's beautiful. I've
Ben
been
made it.
Oh, that is
He finished
so
it.
impressive.
He finished it just before lockdown, and it was our children's work presenting room. We were very blessed.
Wow. Well, it's stunning. I've been enjoying looking at it.
Oh,
And
thank you.
is that a place for a fire behind you?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
The guy who advised us about having a very hot fire in a wooden building recommended we perhaps put a sheet of metal behind it. So we kind of thought, well, a sheet of metal would be a bit boring, so we made it the shape of a tree.
It is so exciting.
You like
Well,
a tree planted by the water.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's
Thank
so
you.
good.
Thank
Well
you.
done, Ben. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. God
Thank
bless you. Thank you for everything you've done. It's fantastic.
Oh,
Thanks,
I'm glad. I hope it serves you well. Bless you.
Thank you so much for coming, everyone. We really appreciate it.